Hello and welcome to the For Our Empire podcast. My name's Abby Ngaucher. I've forgotten my line. Yeah, I've forgotten the line. Okay. Yeah, remember it now. Hello and welcome to the For Our Empire podcast. I'm your host, Abby Ngaucher. And in this podcast, we address the personal and the business issues that female entrepreneurs face in their daily lives. Today, our guest is Tara Mollel. She's going to talk to us about how to avoid burning out and how to overcome imposter syndrome. Hi, Tara.
Hello, how are you, Abby?
Hi. Hey, so tell us a bit more about
It's
yourself.
good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I am wonderful.
Yeah. So I am a business and leadership coach, but more importantly, I am the founder of Business Mastery Tribe. So at the tribe, we educate, we support, and we empower creative business owners, innovators, and change makers to create a 12-month roadmap to really give them structure and direction to expand their impact, increase their profits, and start to build the business that they absolutely love working in.
Sounds lovely. I like that whole 12-month roadmap then, so that you're not quite struggling at some point halfway, but you have a clear path on what you want to do. It's quite nice.
That's it.
Yeah. So let's talk about
but many business owners really struggle with that. Oh, I'm so sorry. We've got a delay, so we keep talking over each other.
Yeah. Let's continue.
My apologies.
Let's continue.
Yeah, well, many business owners do struggle with that, and you think, well, what is the next thing? Then what is the next thing? And when you don't have sort of your weeks or your months or your quarters or years sort of planned out, then you don't really know where you're going to, and you can't really measure how well you've done to get there. So this is where we end up just being busy doing stuff, right? And I always compare it to like throwing spaghetti at a wall. So you just throw it and hopefully something sticks, and you go, cool, that worked. Okay, now the next thing, where I'll keep throwing spaghetti at the wall. And it makes for a really chaotic and really overly busy and complicated business process that I think a lot of people, once you get into that, you get on this hamster wheel, and it's really hard to get off. You know, you start getting into these bad habits, and it's not sustainable. You know, we were just talking before you press record about wanting sustainability. You know, how do we continue moving forwards in a way that we can actually maintain?
Yeah. I really do like that whole 12-month roadmap idea. It's very amazing. I like that. It's just it's nice having some sort of structure. It's like to guide your business. But we'll probably talk about that later. Since this is for the burnout. I wouldn't mind you coming on again to talk about the roadmap then. That sounds very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, and it does feed into the burnout component as well. So in my first business, so I started a business over a decade ago, a while ago. I've been doing this for a while. And like most of us, when we start a business, I was really good at doing the thing that I did. So I was a high school dance and drama teacher, and I created a dance education company, and we delivered dance programs to different high schools and primary schools across Sydney, Australia. And so I was good at that. But then the business side, I had no idea. I had zero clue, didn't know what I was doing. So I was making it up as I went along.
You start from somewhere.
You just make it up as you go along, and you just try different things. Yeah, that's it. And it's totally fine. That's totally fine. You're right. You've got to start the busyness, the hard hustle, trying everything. And either nothing would work, or maybe one thing would kind of work, but I try and do it again. And then it didn't work for the second time. And so I was really, again, just super busy. And this was before I had kids. So I was single. I was in my early 20s, and I was working 24/7. In fact, if I could work 25/7, I totally would have done that as well.
Oh my God, that's
And
exhausting.
I remember it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And sometimes in business, we do have to push ourselves. But those are like short bursts, right? We need to look at that as like little mini sprints, maybe a day or so where it's pretty chaotic and we've got to push ourselves hard. But we cannot continue like that. And this is where the burnout comes. When we are constantly in a state of fight or flight and we're feeling that stress. And so for me at the time, my baseline, like my resting level, was this, on edge, high level anxiety, stress, tension, overwhelm.
Oh my
that
God.
was my rest level. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly not now.
That's not healthy in any
Certainly
way.
not now.
Oh my God.
That's it. And it's not sustainable. But that was the space that I occupied for 6 years. And so by the time it gets to the end of 6 years, and so I built a business. It was very successful. I had a whole bunch of staff underneath me that I was constantly training and working with, and, we're bringing in new clients. So on the outside, I ticked all the boxes for success.
Yeah.
So my business was successful. I had a wonderful partner. We lived in a beautiful apartment in a great location in Sydney, Australia. I mean, I had all the things. I ticked all the boxes for success, but I was miserable.
Oh boy.
I was so miserable. I was empty. I felt hollow. I was just burnt out. I lost my passion for what I was doing.
Yes.
I lost my motivation. I had no energy. I was, drinking way too much. Like, having a glass a night of wine is one thing, but when you're having like a bottle or, having a few too many vodkas at night, just so I could sleep.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Just so I could sleep. Like, it was really intense.
You're literally drinking yourself to sleep.
But
wow.
Yeah. And at this point, I was 27. I was only 27. And
it's still too young for that kind of life.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
But it creeps up. And I think this is where a lot of people, it kind of creeps up on us. So sometimes it's really hard to not see, or we say, oh, I'm just going to stay up late just this one night, or I'm just going to do this thing, and you keep pushing your limits or your boundaries of what is healthy and what is acceptable. And so again, from year 0 when I started to the 6th year, you're like, oh my God, where did this come from? I didn't even recognize the person that I was. And most importantly, like I said, my passion. I mean, I loved what I did, and I fully believed in my message and my mission and what we were delivering to our clients. But even that had burnt out, to the point I was like, I don't even care. What difference am I making? We're not doing anything. It was a really dark space. It was a really dark space.
I can imagine that. Because like mentally it's too much, like an overload. Physically you're not getting any rest, you're not sleeping. I can imagine like getting up every day and realizing that this is what my day is gonna look like. It's gonna be stressful. I'm gonna be so drained. Like, am I looking forward to this day? No. Can I just end this day right now and pretend it happened? I would have loved to do that. But wow, that would be exhausting. That would be exhausting. Yeah. I was in a similar spot, but I couldn't go more than 3 months. Just no.
Well, look, that's good. That's good that you recognized it. Yeah. But like, I mean, so you've got an experience of it now, and the benefit is that you can go, oh, I recognize it. Is it this thing coming back again? Is this really what I need to be doing? Or can I work it another way?
Yes. Yeah, I get that. And I it's part of this mentality we have as business owners, at least this mentality that female entrepreneurs have seen, even on Instagram. This inspirational quote that tells you something about hustling until you bleed. This really weird idea that I have to work so hard that I'm seeing my stress in my dreams. Like even in my dream I'm working. Like, how is this my life? So
oh my goodness.
that was an idea I thought was the right thing, and it's not. It's very unhealthy. Well, we don't believe that. We think it's just laziness. I'm like, really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's so spot on that you brought that up, because you're right. We get given these, pointing my finger at Instagram, that's a big culprit for it, but projecting this image, and it almost becomes heroic. And I remember listening to a podcast interview recently of Ariana Huffington, the founder of Huffington Post, and she talks a lot about sleep and the importance of sleep in preventing burnout, stress and anxiety and all other kinds of illnesses that we face. And she was saying she went on a date a couple of years ago with a guy who was just bragging about how little sleep he had because he was working so hard. He was like, I had 4 hours sleep. Yeah, we treat it like, oh, I'm so cool because I work so hard. And she ended up saying to him, well, you know what, if you had 5 hours sleep, this date would be a lot more interesting.
How is the fact that you're not sleeping such a cool thing to brag about to do? Now I get it. Now I get it.
Hustle.
Yeah. He's implying that he's very hardworking, and that's why he's not sleeping.
Yeah,
I just got it now.
Yeah, that's it.
I love sleep.
I mean, that's the mentality, but you're right. You're right. You're like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but it's this image that we project. So then what I see is two sides, and like everything, it's a balance. We get pushed this image of hard hustle. You got to push, you got to work harder, and that's super cool. And if you're not working hard, then you're lazy. Then on the other side, you have the people who are talking about manifestation, how you can just sit back and just visualize what you want and you'll get it.
It happens.
So therefore you don't have to do any work. And it's like, you can't do, that's it. And you think, no, it takes hard work and effort. But you can't go so hard that you put your health and your own well-being and your own sanity at risk, because it's going to impact your business, right? If you are not functioning at your optimum, which is mind, body, soul, your mental, your physical, your emotional health is impacted, then you are not making the best decisions for your business. So again, a mentor of mine has said this several times to me: a business cannot outperform its leader. So if you aren't working at your best, your business is not working at its best. Yeah. And I thought that just put it so succinctly. Yeah, isn't it true? You go, oh yeah, wow, right? So sometimes we need that sort of extra or that external motivation, I guess, because it's so easy for us to not look after ourselves. I don't think you can just go, oh yeah. I'm not feeling great, but I'll push through. I'll keep going. Just one more email, just one more podcast interview, one more bit of editing. Like, I'll just keep pushing through. Right? Even though everything is telling you to stop because you're so tired, or you're not in the best frame of mind.
I can definitely relate to that. I think I had mentioned that I was working with a client in Australia, and then I also had a 9-to-5 here in Kenya. And so I was also going to school. So I was juggling the three of them, and I was getting like 3 hours sleep, and I was so miserable that if my boss just looked at me, I'll be like, I'm killing you in my head right now. Step away from me. I was miserable. And unfortunately, that I'm not the most like serious corporate person.
What's the point?
I will just tell you straight, I want to kill you. So he knew. So I was like, you're exhausted. And at some point at the beginning, I thought this is what hustle looks like. like this is what a hardworking woman looks like. Like, at least that was Instagram said, like, a hardworking woman is one that what's the stupid quote I read somewhere? It's something along the lines of sleep is for the weak, but not that blatant. It's like if you have time to sleep, you have time to put in the work in your
when
business.
You're dead.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you need 7 hours of sleep for? Cut out 2, invest in your business. That kind of quote that's telling you to like cut out your sleep time and invest in your business. Something that like I had said on Instagram. So I believed it. So and I'm like, oh. So I had a colleague who said he sleeps 4 hours at night, and I was still sleeping like 6, 7. So I felt like I was not putting in like more hours than I could. So I had like taken some of my sleep hours, put it in the business. It was exhausting. It was so exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So exhausting. Yeah.
And
you aren't making the best decisions.
It's not.
Oh, yeah. And look, sometimes it happens. Sometimes you work weekends. Sometimes you've got to work late at night. Sometimes you have to get up in the morning.
But not continuously.
Okay. But to think that if you don't do that, that's it, not continuously. To think if you don't do that, then you're not working hard enough, or you're not doing the best of your business. I mean, it's like everything. It's about quality, not quantity. Ever. The quality of your work is what stands out, is what's going to move you forwards, not the quantity. And so to come back to the beginning of this about that 12-month roadmap, is the whole purpose of that is to really identify for you what are those key important tasks that you do need to do, whether it's ongoing, whether it's during certain periods of time, you're launching a new product or you're bringing out a new course, whatever it may be. But what are the key areas that you need to be focusing on so you can really be clear about where you need to dedicate your time? Because in all honesty, particularly when we're starting up, the reason why it's so busy is because we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you do everything. But that doesn't help. Right? That doesn't help, particularly when you're starting up. It really isn't that busy, right?
There's nobody there.
As it gets busier, as your business grows, you got no clients to start with, right? So it's not that busy.
It's a harsh thing to say, but that's the truth.
You don't have a platform. You don't have an audience. Matter, right? So there's not that much to do, really, right? So you're probably not serving anyone, and then by the time you get to the you've got some regular clients and it does get busy, you've got money coming in to then spend on either outsourcing or employing people or whatever to alleviate that. So it's really important that we have these plans in place. We have these structures in place to really know what to focus on and when, so we don't burn out, so we can sustain this business during every stage. Because the startup phase, that's hard. The growth phase is also hard. And the expansion stage is really hard. Like, all of it's hard. It's business, right? And there's new challenges that you've never experienced at each and every stage. So that's why, when I feel myself now, this time around, this is now my 3rd business. So this time around, when I start to feel that way, so earlier today, I started to feel really overwhelmed, and I was like, just walking away. Because if I can't handle this sort of startup phase, then there's no way I can handle the growth phase. Then there's no way I'm going to be able to handle the challenges that come in that next stage. So I have to learn how to manage myself and how I approach these challenges. And working harder is never really the answer.
I think there's the line that says work smarter and not harder.
And that's exactly it. The challenge comes to going, well, what does working smarter look like? That's quite individual and unique, I think, to every business and every business owner's personal situation. but that's okay. So your business routine and journey is not going to be the same as mine. Cool, that's fine. And to know that there is no one way of doing business. And what I've been saying to my community now is, with the pandemic, it's like people are finally realizing that whole concept of business as usual, or this is how it has to be, has gone out the window. It doesn't work. And in all honesty, it never did. There's so many more women in business, mums in business now, that we have such unique situations because we are studying, we are still working, we are still taking care of family, whether that's children or parents or grandparents or whatever. We have so many other social responsibilities. And then we have to start up a business. And we are so used to putting ourselves last that it brings out these new challenges, because we do have to put ourselves first so we can help all the people around us, so we can fulfill all of our responsibilities. So business as usual is bullshit, really. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't apply.
I think people are trying to realize that there are more effective ways of working. People are trying to realize that most of the things you thought you needed to do, you thought were necessary, are not really necessary. We're not really important. It's just something you're doing for ego's sake, doing for the sake of doing it, or you're doing it because you've seen it somewhere and you think this is how it should be like. But it doesn't have to be like that. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting shift right now. You know, like even from our end, from my business partner and I, we're starting to realize that a lot of the things we had planned for like business growth, a lot of milestones we had ticked out as part of like our path. Most of them we're starting to like wonder,
yes,
do we need that? Like so like one of it was
I love it.
We had wanted to get this really big office space, even though we don't quite need it. But our argument then was that a client would like to come into a big office space, and that's going to cost us a lot of money. And that was something we both agreed on. Like, yeah. If it looks pretty good, we will come to it. And so we had like worked ourselves to the bone so that we could have at least 1 year down payment on the property that we don't quite need yet, but we think we will need.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, but then now COVID happened, and we're like, well, we're working online now. Most of our clients don't want to go anywhere physically; they're like Zoom only. So now we're questioning that's 1 year down payment to be like blood, sweat, and tears to put down. We could have put that money somewhere else, though. Like we could literally just like budget it into something else. It's been quite interesting, like knowing that all like we literally suffered for nothing.
Awesome.
That's the word, we suffered for nothing. Oh yeah. Yeah, like I could have slept longer.
Well, look, like you said, it's a down payment. You can put it somewhere else, And I think that's really important. And I think that's a vital lesson that other people could learn from your experience there, is that you create this plan, awesome, but you can always change it. And you always have to be looking at that plan, at your milestones, going, okay, well, what is the shift happening now around and COVID? I mean, who could have planned or predicted that?
Yes.
But in the moment, it's so important to do what you guys just did and go, oh, hang on, like we said we were going to do this, and yes, it was totally justified. It was a really good idea at the time, but things have changed. Yeah. So you need to change. You need to change with all of that. So that's fantastic. That's a really important lesson that,
oh yeah,
you know, I trust your listeners picked up on it, and people are learning, because you've got to be, I call it being agile. You've got to be agile, always on your toes and going, well, what's happening around me? What is the environment? What are my clients saying to me? And so I was going to head in this like direction, but that just doesn't quite fit anymore. No. So let's sort of turn a little bit, and that's so important. Right? Otherwise you get rigid and stuck in your ways, and and it's just not going to work out. Right? So you've got to be agile all the time.
So before we talk a bit more about imposter syndrome, what's your opinion on self-care for female entrepreneurs? So we know that there is so much toxic, it's practically toxic anyway, toxic opinions on what hustle should look like. So let's talk about the self-care part of it, because we don't really quite focus on that. We are like, work, don't sleep, work, don't sleep. So let's talk about the self-care part of it.
Love it. Yeah. So self-care. Now, there are, again, thanks to social media, a lot of preconceived notions about what self-care is. So people are like, go get your nails done, go get a massage, or just, sit and relax, have a cup of tea. And all of those, yes, are self-care. They're forms of self-care. But if, you're anything like me, I couldn't think of anything worse, right? To sit down and just have a cup of tea, unless I'm listening to like a podcast where I'm learning something, then for me, I'm like, this is just boring, right? Or just sit and have a massage. Sure, I'll do that occasionally. Yeah, but I fall asleep. And you go, well, I could sleep at home too. So for me, and I think self-care is very individualized. And so I encourage people, I say self-care is about filling your cup. So what fuels you? What refuels you? So you can fill your cup back up to then pour out again and pour it into your business, into your family, into your career, whatever it is. But what is filling up your cup? And I always had, when I was younger, my mother would always say, Tara, just stop, just rest. You do too much. You're too busy. And as if it was a negative thing. And I was like, but I just can't sit still. I can't, because it's boring. It's just not me. So I find different things to do, whether it's going out to dance, whether it's going for a walk, some kind of exercise, or like I said, listening to podcasts or reading a book at some kind of educational component, or it is going out and meeting friends. I'm doing stuff. And for me, what really fuels me is anything honestly creative, where I'm allowed to be creative. There's no boundaries or barriers. It's just creative expression. I love that. So we have a lot of dancing in our house. We do have a lot of singing, but we all really suck at singing, but that's fine. We have a lot of dance. Me and fills me back up. It's not sitting and resting. It's doing, it's being active, it's being creative. So self-care, I say to people, is whatever fuels you, whatever you love to do. And doesn't have to be any specific outcome. It's something that you feel fulfilled, refueled, full again, is really the main thing. And that's how you choose self-care.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice to hear the message that self-care is different for everybody. So self-care does not have to be me going to a spa somewhere, or getting a massage somewhere, or sipping a glass of wine somewhere because I'm told this is what self-care for entrepreneurs should look like. So yeah, it's a nice message to have, and it's one I wish that is more known than work till you bleed. So I wish that was a more pronounced message than this really toxic one about working and working and working. So let's talk about imposter syndrome, because that's something with myself also I've struggled with.
Yeah, hugely. So imposter syndrome is the gap between who we think we should be and how we project ourselves, but then the gap between who we believe ourselves to be. So I'll give you an example. I, being a dancer and a teacher and a performer, of course you have to be confident, right? When you're up on stage, you got to be confident. When you're standing in front of a bunch of teenage children who aren't necessarily interested in what you have to say, you got to be confident. Yeah, you got to be confident up there. You got to be pretty tough. So that's been a part of who I need to be in my work, or like in the early part of my career in my work, that's sort of this facade. And not to say that it wasn't totally true, I wasn't faking it, but there was certainly times when I just didn't feel confident. And I had this, for a little while, I had this thought about myself that, again, this self-doubt, like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to get found out. People are going to realize that I'm not that confident. And I'm talking a whole bunch of shit. I don't really know what I'm saying. And I don't believe myself, so why would anyone else? All these thoughts, yet the image I had to put forwards was something quite different. And so it's that gap. And to, I guess, sort of combat imposter syndrome, it's to lessen that gap.
Okay.
Right? So more often than not, it's twofold. We have to look at, who do we think we should hustle? We've got to look a certain way and act a certain way. Sometimes with social media, to go, I've got to convince people that I'm successful, so I have to take photos of me working. It's got to be, for me as a mum, it's got to be me. I've got to take photos of the healthy meals that I'm giving my children all the time. Like, we've got to fit into this image, into this box. And you go, that's not actually me, right? It's not actually me. I mean, I try and give my kids healthy lunch, but so badly, right? But it's not authentic to who I am. And the problem is, when we don't believe that we have value to give, when we don't believe that our authentic self is actually worth showing, then that's when we put on this front. That's when we project this image that isn't necessarily true. So it's looking at, what are you projecting, and what do you think you should be showing, and also what are you actually believing about yourself and who you are and your value right now.
Okay, sorry.
So there's
the
that
bank
gap.
is calling right now. Can I just pick this up? Hi. Sorry about that.
Hi. That's all right. Well, good.
Yes, I'm good. They wanted me to come to the bank to pick up some documents, but I'll probably go tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're talking about the imposter syndrome, and then how it's a gap between this perception and what you really are, and how much we want to lessen that gap as much as possible. Okay. So my question is this: how do I phrase this? Typically, this imposter syndrome comes in because there is this expectation that we think we need to have or we need to meet to get to this level. Like, for example, in 2018, I wanted to be an author. So I had followed like several authors, and then
yes,
I felt confident about it until I started having this idea of what an author should look like, or what they need to do, what kind of writing styles they need to have, what sort of daily routines they have to have. And I did not meet any of that, and then my confidence just like poof, boom, disappeared. Yeah. So I feel like sometimes imposter syndrome comes in. It's like there's this societal expectation of what qualifications I need to have to be this person, and when I don't have that, I just feel like maybe I need to give myself a year or two to meet this. Then a year or two turn into 3 years and 4 years, and then it never happens. Yeah, I
know. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Abby, that is a universal human experience. So many of my clients, myself, have experienced exactly that. And we go out and we pursue all these different qualifications. We consume all this information, like we've got to get more knowledge. But we still feel like an imposter. We still don't feel like we're good enough We
Yes.
know enough, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
as a result of that, we either push ourselves to work harder, hence then leading to burnout, or like you said, we then don't start or do anything at all. Like you stay in that information gathering mode.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it.
Just
And
tell
you
yourself
never
I'm
take
planning.
action to do it. That's it, yes.
I'm still planning to write a
Perpetual
book.
planning. Yeah,
It's been
that's
2 years
it.
and I'm still
That's
planning.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could now write a book on planning to write a book,
Yeah, I can do
right?
that.
You're so good at it now. You know it, right?
I know.
Absolutely, because we don't know enough. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not
Yeah,
tall
the
enough.
pretty enough
We're
I can
not,
relate to.
all of this
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
stuff around. Not, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
all of that. It's whatever we tell ourselves, which is all nonsense, by the way. None of it's true, right? What we tell ourselves is not based on fact. It's not based on truth. It's not based on science. It's not based on, anyone else's reality but our own.
Yeah.
It's just what we tell ourselves is true, but that doesn't make it true. And
Yeah.
so I think when we keep focusing on those sort of negative stories, it keeps the gap. It keeps us in imposters, feeling like an imposter, right? Because it keeps us held back, right?
Yes.
Rather than, and this is what I'll tell all of your listeners right now, is looking at where are you at right now?
Okay.
Listing out all the things you have achieved so far in your life, all the things that you know. And I'm talking, it could be like back when you were, 4 or 5, you learned to tie your shoelaces by yourself. Like that's something you can do. Who gives a shit that other people can or cannot do it? It's something that you have achieved.
Yeah.
I'm talking so little and big things and everything in between. So everything you've achieved, everything that you know in the now, and all the people that you can ask them about what they think your best qualities are.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So we're looking at personal qualities as well. We're looking at knowledge and we're looking at achievement. Those 3 areas, and you list them out. And now at first you might look at it and go, well, it's not special, or it's not important, or it's not enough. It's always that recognition of, well, what do I know now? Who am I right now? Because we're all experts
at something.
In something.
Yeah.
We're all experts in many things, but everyone's an expert in at least one thing. Like I can say my son, he's 5, he's an expert in dinosaurs. I don't know anything about dinosaurs, right? But even he is an expert in dinosaurs. He knows them all. He knows them all. He can say them all. He knows what time period they were in. He's obsessed. Wow. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I've got no clue. Like the names of some of these dinosaurs are ridiculous. That's it. So it's like everyone is an expert at something, right? So there's no one who's better or worse or whatever, because no one else has your unique collection of skills, experience, achievements, knowledge. No one has that unique collection that Abby does, because there's never been a you, right? Before in the world, and there'll never be another you. So there is only one Abby. So it's so important that we remind ourselves of this. And the more you remind yourself, then the more we start to lessen that gap. Why? Because we start to project, we start to value who we are, what we know, and where we're at right now. And then we start to project that authentic version of ourselves. Not what other people tell us to, not what social media says we should do, be, look like. We project who we actually are. And therefore it's ridding ourselves of any imposter, because that's who we are.
Okay.
Right?
I have a question.
So,
okay. So
please do.
So, you've mentioned this part about how everyone is an expert in at least one thing. So now, what do you think of the belief that for me to call myself an expert in this one thing, I need to have the educational qualifications to back up that claim? So is that something that I have to factor in before I can call myself an expert in this thing? So let's say, let me get a name. Can I just make my business partner's name? Patience wants to start a business in, I don't know, knitting or something. So for me to call myself an expert in knitting, do I have to have gone to get several certifications or attend several events and all that to prove that I am an expert at knitting?
I think it's important to have proof, but is that but proof can come in many different ways. It could be from your years of experience, it could be from your achievements, it could be from certifications, but there's no one avenue that grants you as an expert. So I'll give you an example. So I spent 4 years studying at university. So straight out of high school, I went to university, spent 4 years studying how to be a high school teacher.
Okay.
Right? 4 years, study it. I graduated with 2 certificates, 2 bachelor degrees in 4 years. Great. I then went over to London to teach as a casual or substitute teacher over there. I learnt more about teaching in those 6 months than I did in my entire 4 years. And in actual fact, I had spent 4 years learning the theory, and none of it worked in practice, right?
Oh, wow.
I was facing these children who were in very low socioeconomic circumstances, who hadn't been fed that morning, who hadn't been bathed, who came from abusive and neglectful homes. They weren't interested in the amazing lesson plan that I had prepared for them. You know, they weren't interested in me at all.
Yeah.
In fact, I had several children just walk out of my class and I never saw them again. I don't know where they went. Right?
The confidence hits right now. Ouch.
Yes.
Wow.
Tell me about it. And I was so confident because I had a degree in this. I know what I'm doing.
I know this
and it's
stuff.
something you go, oh no, I'm a novice. I am a novice and I don't know anything. So what I'll say is gaining information, knowledge, qualifications. Yes, that's important, but it's not the only thing. And it's not the only way of doing it, because knowledge without taking action and putting it into practice doesn't mean anything. You know, with some professions, like if you want to be a psychologist or a counselor, or even a teacher, yes, you do need to have qualifications, right? You can't just be anyone. So you do need to have qualifications. But again, that in and of itself is just one part of the equation. Right? So you need to have that experience. So that's why I say, again, coming back to those 3 areas, what have you achieved? What are your achievements? What is your skills and knowledge base, and qualifications can go into there? And then what are your personal attributes that make you really awesome? Right? You need to have all 3. So, and it frustrates me as well that we do have this belief that if I get a qualification or if I learn all this information, then I'll be an expert. And it's like, yes and no at the same time, right? Because just knowing stuff, that's it. Because just knowing stuff. And I mean, a great example is Sir Richard Branson, right? Who built up Virgin. He left school. I think he was actually kicked out of school in year 9 when he was 15. He left school. And you're like, he's not doing too bad, right?
Yeah,
he's
definitely not doing too bad.
And I guarantee, he's not doing too bad. And he didn't even finish school. And do you want to know why they called it Virgin? So it started off as a record company. So they were called Virgin Records. And he and his business partner called it Virgin because they were virgins in business. That's why they called it Virgin, because they didn't know what they were doing.
And just like learned as they went.
That's it. You learn as you go.
Yeah.
So so I think that's a really awesome question. And it's never a black and white answer. I mean, with me, I don't ever give black and white answers because everything feeds in and plays into something else. Right?
Wow.
So it's not easy. So you need to look at all of those areas. Yeah.
So anything else you want to add about imposter syndrome or about, burning out? Any of that tips or advice?
Just keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Just keep looking out for it. If you are feeling, again, you're lacking motivation and you're lacking energy, or you've been feeling really tired, and you don't have coronavirus or any other illness, I would say.
Like an interesting
Probably should mention that. Yeah, that's it. If you think you have coronavirus, then go see a doctor. But, if there's nothing illness-wise, if there's nothing wrong illness-wise, lacking motivation, lacking energy, feeling tired, or, little things like, I find that my shoulders are raised a lot, and I find this tightness in my neck or in my jaw, right? Or you find that you're getting headaches because you're upping your head a lot. Like, these little things are all signs. It's all your body telling you that, hey, what you're doing isn't working. And so look at, like we then mentioned, self-care. What can you do to fill your cup up so you feel good in your body, mind, body, spirit? Yes. You feeling good, so then you can put the best energy back into your business. So that's really important, which so many of us do. Look at, like we just mentioned, those 3 areas of writing that list of everything that you've achieved, all your knowledge and skill set and qualifications, and ask your close, trusted friends and colleagues and family what they think your top 1 to 3 attributes or qualities are. And start making that list to really get clear on how awesome you are right now, what you're already good at and an expert in right now.
Yay! Learned a lot. Tell us a bit more about
Also, I'm so glad.
Yeah, about the Business Mastery Tribe. So you've taught us a lot right now about about burnout, about imposter syndrome, about having that roadmap. So if someone is more interested in this, so how can they reach Tara?
Yeah. I love hanging out over on Facebook. So you can find our business page, Business Mastery Tribe, or also our free Facebook group, which is Tara's Business Tribe. And you can find that there. And also LinkedIn. So you can find me at Tara Mollel, Mollel. Over on LinkedIn too. I do have an Instagram handle, so I'll put that down there. That's Tara Mollel Coach. I don't hang out there much. Yeah. There we go. Tara Mollel Coach.
Tara
And I think I might change it to Business Mastery Tribe as well. I just don't hang out on Instagram that much.
It's okay.
I
have Instagram on my phone. And then I don't
today,
use
really.
it much. I have a tracker on my phone where if I've used an app more than an hour, it shuts down. So it is never shut down. So I don't think I use it that much. Okay, sorry. Tara Mollel, this one.
Yes, awesome.
Yes. So do you have a website, or what would you like us to?
Yes.
Yeah, what's the website?
It's me with long hair. Oh yes, I do. TaraMollel.com.
Okay. TaraMollel.com.
TaraMollel.com.
Okay, so for this video, would you prefer I put TaraMollel.com and your Facebook group or your Facebook page?
Yeah, that would be best.
Which one? The page or the group? Which would you want?
Oh, the group.
The group.
Oh, the group. Yeah.
Okay.
The group
so
would be
I'm gonna put the websites and the group and then your name on top. All right, we'll do that.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, it was nice having you here.
Woohoo! Yeah, you too. Can I take it? I'll take a photo.
Okay.
Is that possible? Take a photo. I'm getting closer. Yes. Awesome. And I'll be posting it on Facebook. Are we connected on Facebook?
Let me see. Let's see. If you're not, I'm gonna send you a friend request right now. Let's see.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I think you said you mentioned LinkedIn. I connect with you on LinkedIn since let me see, Tara Mollel. Wait, hold on.